Hey, it's Sam, and I'm talking today about this new moon in Aries in Kritikka Nakshatra, and how it's going to lead into a um, celebration or a auspicious day called Akshaya Tritiya. So we have a couple new cycles and auspicious times ahead in the next few days. So check this out. Okay, so I'm here talking today about the new moon in Aries. You see, this new moon is happening here. Actually, this is May 11th, 2021. This was like 11:53 this morning in San Diego. You say it was like exact. So we had the new moon, the sun and moon come together here in Kritikka Nakshatra. Of course, this is the sidereal zodiac, which begins there at 0 degrees Aries with Ashwini. Then from 1320 to 2640, it's Bharani, and then 2640 of Aries, and then to 10 degrees of Taurus, we have Kritika Nakshatra. So you see that the sun and moon came together here at that point of ecliptic longitude. Of course, sidereal ecliptic longitude, like in all the Indian texts, clearly lays out the sky sidereally. And this is the, I say, beginning of this Aries cycle, but we're getting these cycles now falling at the end of the signs. And so it's kind of, the end of a cycle and sort of anticipating the next one. So again, as the sun has been in Aries for the last 27 days, as you see, because the sun moves 1 degree every day. And so the sun has been in Aries for the last 27 days, and then the sun and moon come together at the very end of Aries. So it's almost like this end of this cycle is anticipating the next one, when the sun moves into Taurus, which would be only in 3 days. On May 14th, the sun moves into Taurus, right as we're having this auspicious day called Akshaya Tritiya. Tritiya is the third lunar day, so I'll talk about that in a minute. But, for the most part, what I really see this as is a sort of, it's kind of a initiation of our individuality on some level, but also because it's so much mixed with the next sign of Taurus, it's really very much about taking that individual strength and power and clarity and bringing it more into a tangible form, into more of a Taurus structure, and a form that can be shared and enjoyed and appreciated. Where all can appreciate what makes you happy and gets you excited. Those qualities of Aries have to do with our individual strength and courage and even force. It's a forceful sign where we're like, no, I want to do what I want. I'm right. It's ruled by Mars, and so we've been feeling quite a lot of that anyway for the last couple, for the last several weeks, last like 27 days. And, particularly the most recent full moon that we had in Libra, which was a couple weeks ago, we really felt a lot of that sort of tension between needing to compromise with others and needing to assert our individuality. We really felt a lot of that, sort of dynamic. It's almost like now, as the moon is coming back to its conjunction with Aries, which usually starts the full 30-day cycle, it's almost like that energy has kind of waned. And so, again, even though this this new moon is happening in Aries and at the very end of Aries, there's really going to be a very Taurus energy to it. So again, this is quite interesting because it's showing how we can take that individuality that we've been so focused on for the last several weeks and align it and bring it into a form, into a structure, into a tangible, workable form. So I'm going to talk about that, and also the nakshatra of Kritikka and Akshaya Tritiya. I did also, before I go into it too far, I did also want to let people know, if you haven't gotten the web class where I talk about the nodes in Taurus and Scorpio, you want to do that. As you can see, we're moving to an eclipse very soon. The sun is going to be joined Rahu here, and we're in the eclipse season right now. It's literally happening now with this new moon. It's really bringing us into the eclipse, because 2 weeks from now we're going to have the lunar eclipse, and then 2 weeks after that, or so approximately, we're going to have the solar eclipse. So the next new moon that we have is going to be a solar eclipse in Taurus. That's going to happen on June 10th. So we're really entering the actual eclipse portal right now. So you want to understand, if you haven't gotten insight yet into this eclipse axis, this Rahu in Taurus and Ketu in Scorpio eclipse axis, you want to watch this web class, okay? Because on this web class, and again, it's very easy. Just click that link and click reserve my seat now. You can either watch instant replay, or you can pick a date, put your name and email, and you'll get sent the link. And again, I talk about this nodes in Taurus and Scorpio for you and all 12 signs. And look, that's going until March of next year. We got a long way to go. Rahu and Ketu are only about halfway into the sign, so we're in it for until next March. So you'll want to know what this means for you. This isn't just a kind of incidental, okay, this week there's an eclipse. No, this nodal axis sits there for a year and a half. What happens on the eclipses is that the energy gets blown up. It's like, okay, now we really see it with a lot of force. But this eclipse axis has been sitting there since September of last year, since September 19th, right? So you need to really know what this means for you, how to best stay centered during this time, because wherever this axis of Taurus and Scorpio falls, that's going to be, that has been going through a lot of transformation, right? If you're Pisces, it's your 3rd and 9th house axis. If you're Virgo, it's also your 3rd and 9th house axis, but the opposite one. If you're Libra, it's your 2nd and 8th house axis. So you also want to know historically how the nodes in Taurus and Scorpio have been. Last time they were here, it was, we had like the Gulf War in the U.S. We had that big invasion in Iraq, and we also established new guidelines like the Department of Homeland Security and other kinds of things. So I talk about the history of this axis, and I also talk about the nakshatras, like, right now they're in Anuradha and Rohini, right? So they were in, Mrigashira and Jeshta. So again, how the nodes are moving through these nakshatras. And then, of course, the eclipses. So I talk about each one of the eclipses. And then also remedies and practices for this time. So again, this is really something that you should understand if you haven't gotten it already. It's free. You just go there and register for it. And so, again, this new moon, you see it's happening at 27 degrees of Krittikka, Nakshatra. And, Krittikka means the cutter. It's to cut. And it's that part of Aries that's becoming Taurus. Again, you should understand, if you don't, this is absolutely sidereal zodiac. And when you're using nakshatras, they align with the Rashis in every text, and it makes perfect sense. There's no way to even, it's not really a debatable thing at all. It's just simply the fact. In every text it says it, and not just every text, but conceptually it's very easy to understand why every ancient culture used the sidereal sky, because it's the planets moving through the sky. So we're measuring them with the sky that's not moving. It's very simple to understand. So this point of this nakshatra is the one that bridges Aries and Taurus. So again, it's not just something like a debatable point. We literally have the sky set up this way so that that junction between Aries and Taurus is Kritikka Nakshatra. So it has that fiery quality of Aries and that earthy, settled, calm quality of Taurus. So it's not the fire that's burning everything up. It's the fire that warms the food and digests the food, and that you put in the fire pit, that you put in the earth to contain the where fire is managed and contained in a structure, in a vessel, like, for example, your digestive fire, the fire in your belly, the fire, again, in like a sacred fire pit where we do pujas, where we offer our sacrament. This is the symbol of Kritikka. And again, this is how Kritikka is showing both parts of Aries and Taurus. Literally, the sacrificial fire pit that you see Vedic priests throwing seeds into and where the fire is contained, that's the perfect symbol, really, of Kritikka Nakshatra. So there's that fire that delineates and that shows distinction, and also that is warming, that is digesting, and that is illuminating. And so what happens when we go to a puja is the things that you put into the fire then disperses, goes up into heaven through the smoke, and then it disappears into the higher dimensions on a less, or I should say in a more immediate level. It also has to do with the food, because your digestive system and your body and your whole life is also a sacrament. This is why the food that you eat and what you digest goes in, and the Agni digests it. So Agni is digestion of all sorts. It's where we have to digest everything that we consume. We have to digest everything that we consume, and not just through our mouth, not just what goes into our mouth, but what goes into our eyes, what goes into our ears. We have to digest all of it, and all of it creates our consciousness. Everything you digest is what forms your consciousness. So this is why when you eat bad food or fill your body with toxins, drinking and smoking and drinking alcohol and eating meat and doing these kinds of things. Again, I'm no one's judge. It's one of these things that's not a debatable point. We want to turn everything into some debate now. Well, but meat, some people need it, or look, I'm no judge. It's just simply that these things, everything has a vibration, everything has a frequency, and it's a frequency that dulls the mind, regardless of what it might do for the body. And by the way, there are definitely times, even from an Ayurvedic perspective, where people need to eat meat or whatever. So again, I'm not a judge of these things. I'm not judging. They have a vibration, and one of the vibrations of meat is to make things denser and heavier. Some people who have a problem with that maybe need to eat a little bit of meat to fortify. So again, however, it's definitely known that whatever we take into our body needs to be digested. And so regardless of what we eat, and by the way, even if we eat sattvic food or eat vegetables or vegetarian diet, we're supposed to take it with love and gratitude. That's part of the sacrament as well. This is like when you go to a puja, you're not just sitting there on your phone looking at videos or something. You're present. So when you offer something into the fire, the thing that's in your hand, like the seeds or the whatever it is, that's just a representation of your mind. And seeds, by the way, if you've ever been to an Indian puja, the seeds represent the seeds of your karma. And you're throwing the seeds of your karma into the fire and burning up your negative karma. That's why you throw seeds. Because seeds can go underground, subconscious, and create a new tree of karma. So you take seeds and you throw them in the fire. But if you throw them in the fire and your mind is all over the place, and you're like, and you're thinking about other stuff, again, there's no consciousness to it. So you feel the devotion to the deity or the god or whatever it is that you're involved with that puja, and you take that seed and you feel that sacred flow, and you offer that with gratitude and with humility, and you ask God, the Lord of Fire, the god Agni, to take that offering up into heaven. Again, the same thing is true with your meal. Regardless of what kind of meal you have to eat, you take it with gratitude and humble reverence for the plant that you have to eat or the animal that you have to eat. That makes all the difference. So again, I'm talking about this because the Krittikka and Agni are very much about this. And you can see how this Agni, again, it's not just the fire in the fire pit where we do the offering, but it's also your digestive fire. It's also your consciousness and your awareness of that. And, from Aries to Taurus, Aries is very much even about the conquest to go out there and assert and maybe even hunt and pursue, things in your life. And Taurus is where we then are grateful and content with what we have. So you can see how even in that sense, this nakshatra of Krittika is right in between, and it's mostly Taurus. The first pada is in Aries, and then the rest is in Taurus. So we see very much that it's mostly that earthy quality, just like a fire pit. You don't have like this much fire and this much earth. You have like this much earth and this much fire, because the fire can, you got to make sure the fire doesn't get too big and that the earth can contain it. Just like your body is containing all that fire within you, but if the fire gets to be too big, then it can start to consume the body, right? So these are important things to understand and to ponder right now in your life with your individuality and those things leading to greater contentment, using that power that you have and that clarity and that courage of Aries and that assertion and that will that you have to add greater value and meaning to not just other people, but to life itself and to your own highest value and values. These highest values, are related to the sign of Taurus. And so, again, a big emphasis on that sign of Taurus in the next, even in the next 3 days, the sun is going to shift and the planets are shifting. You already see we have Venus, Rahu, and Mercury are already there in Taurus. So this is this big shift that I talked about at the beginning of May. I talked about this big shift in May from fire signs and all the planets in fire where we started in May to Earth, which is where we are now. Now we're getting into Earth and even these eclipses. This, I want to show this Akshaya Tritiya, this chart here, and is this Akshaya? Oh no, this is Akshaya Tritiya from last year. I want to show you something. This is Akshaya Tritiya from this year. Let me take a drink here. So we have this date, and Akshaya Tritiya is an auspicious day where supposedly, and the reason it's auspicious is because both the sun and the moon are exalted at that time, are in their exalted placements and exalted signs. This nature here of showing both of the luminaries in their exalted places, stereotypically would be with the sun in Aries and the moon in Taurus, like I say last, but because of this phenomena of this lunar phase happening so late, you see that the sun is actually almost is basically in Taurus and the moon is in Gemini on Akshaya Tritiya this year. If we look at last year, this is where it was. This was Akshaya Tritiya of 2020. The sun was in Ashwini at 11 degrees and the moon was in Krittika. This is from 2020. This is usually what Akshaya Tritiya looks like, with the sun and the moon both exalted. But this year, it's not. So they're happening later. But it's stereotypically, or generally, it's auspicious because of this phenomena. But this year, they're not really in their exalted signs. And last month we had them; they were closer. But the sun also last month when we had it, the sun was also barely in Aries. So it's just been this phenomena this year of the lunation cycles happening with the sun in late degrees of the rashis, which is creating. But the bottom line is that on May 14th, it's an auspicious time for things like purchases, for new, for things that are, where you want an auspicious result. So this is also in the West here. This is on Friday. So again, making purchases, doing things that, even stereotypically like starting businesses and those kinds of things where you want something beneficial and auspicious to result, Akshaya Tritiya is, in many ways the most auspicious day of the year in that sense. But again, I have to put forth a caveat this year that it's neither one of the planets are in their exalted sign with Akshaya Tritiya this year. So it's a little bit, what I would say is that maybe look at things that are beneficial, especially as they relate to communication and whatnot, particularly because the moon is here in Gemini. It's also joined Mars and whatnot. But so, in a general sense, we're here in May. And again, we're seeing this shift now from the from the fire signs to the earth signs. And this is what I wanted to make sure people understood, that these new cycles are, quite important when we begin. This one again is going to have a strong Taurus feel, and one of the reasons that's also bringing that in and landing it is that Venus is here in Taurus, Mercury is in Taurus. They're both with Rahu, so there's a lot of this desire to really connect and to maybe even reconnect with those who we feel that we want to be involved with and whose values we share and all that kind of stuff because of all the Taurus energy right now. So even though we have this new moon it's at the very end of Aries in Kritikka Nakshatra, there's a strong Taurus feel to it. And we're moving toward the eclipse. So we're getting drawn even more into that Taurus Scorpio axis right now. So again, for this next month or so, it'll be a lot of that, doubling down on your comfort zone and contentment and peace and happiness and what makes you happy, and whether or not your standards for happiness are beyond what, let's say, any person could fulfill or any situation, because the world isn't here to make us happy, and we're trying to do it, but it's in some ways a kind of futile quest. We're supposed to do our best with each other, but, maybe looking at impossible standards, disappointments. These are also big parts of the Taurus equation. Boredom, where we get comfortable and then bored and then kind of anxious with the things we have and feel like we want to get more of them. And again, particularly I say this because of the eclipse here. Rahu is bringing this desire to expand it more. And he's also bringing this restlessness and this, at times discontent. Now, again, it can also bring a lot of happiness, but notice notice the situation and what happens when you become happy. You also wind up, happiness has it sort of tops out at some point. And there's a phenomena of that where we only can get so happy with something of the world. This is why I say this, because again, with other people or with the things that we're looking for to make us happy, happiness is limited. So we need to extend that and expand that beyond a situation or a person to something transcendent, which is of our own heart, of our own essence, So again, Venus and Mercury with Rahu and Taurus both really connects us to that desire and that capacity and even ability to identify what makes us happy. It might even give it to us. But then even if as much as we get it, we're also going to realize, but this is still limited. This is still the game of the world. And we top out. We hit that upper level of, okay. And what can typically happen, if we don't understand this, is we'll start to get irritated, anxious at the other person because we top out with them. We top out and then we want to tap out. But we top out with our experience with them. And then we just we come back to ourselves and then we're like, and then we just kind of start noticing the things that we don't like or the things we start to get restless. So again, if we've attached all of our happiness to that person, there's nothing they can do at some point. We can only get this much from them or from a situation. It's not just a person. Again, it depends on where the sun of Taurus is. If you're a Leo, a lot of it's happening in your 10th house. And like, I'm only going to get so much happiness and fulfillment from my career, even though it's growing and it's expanding. It's only going to grow. It's only going to grow. I mean, even if it keeps growing, I'm only going to get so much fulfillment and happiness out of it because that's all it can give. Not because it's wrong or bad, but it's all it can give. And hopefully we learn that lesson before we exhaust ourselves saying, oh, no, if I just get more, then I'll be happy. If I get more, then I'll be happy. Right? This is the thing we can tend to do with other people and with situations. Okay, you're making me this happy, but you could be making me more happy. If I just try to get more of it from you, then I'll be happy with you. And again, it's instead of appreciating and instead of appreciation, which is a deeper essence of Venus, not the happiness we get, but appreciating the happiness, not only that we get, but appreciating the sacrifice that another has to even try to make us happy. How many people even care enough to try to please you or to try to make you happy or try to be graceful or gracious? How many even try? And do we appreciate it when they try, or do we just like, okay, well, that's you trying to make me happy. Okay, a little bit, but not quite good enough. Try a little harder. I'm still not happy, so please try a little harder. Now, again, we don't think of it like that, but that's kind of what it is. We can always find that thing that's a little disappointing. It's not perfect. I'm still not in the state of bliss all the time, and you're the one trying to make me happy, so you're supposed to be my boyfriend or my girlfriend, so come on, I'm still upset about things. At some point, Venus is trying to connect us with joy and the bliss of the soul that only we can generate. And these eclipses that are coming up, this whole eclipse cycle is really sort of drawing us in right now. And so that's what you want to really be considering. So someone asked a question about if that May 14th is good, Solana, for making an investment is something we've been considering investing in. I'm not going to give advice on investing. Again, so I understand what you're saying. And again, it's way too complicated than that because somebody has their dasha cycles and whatnot. And it's like, oh, this is a great time to invest. And they're getting hammered by the 12th house ruler. I don't know what the chart is. And also, I'm not making any, these are general indicators for general things, okay? Just take it like that, all right? Don't read too much into it, all right? And be suspicious of astrologers that would say, yeah, it would be a great day to invest in something. First, I don't know what it is. I don't know what dasha you're running. I don't know anything about any of the background. I don't know how, so I just said it what it is. I explained what it is. So the Akshaya Tritiya it's a supportive day because both sun and moon are exalted, and it brings a lot of stability. Again, I'm less turned on about the Akshaya Tritiya of this year because they're not actually exalted. They're actually in different signs. The sun is Sandhi, and the moon is in Gemini. So I'm not so turned on by that part of it, especially the invest in something or some kind of worldly thing. Again, this is what we often do, and it's perfectly legit to ask the question. But I would always give, no matter, even last year where Akshaya Tritiya happened, where they were both exalted and really quite powerful, I never would say, yeah, go invest money in something. It's great to do that. You got to look at everything because it's, everything on an individual level is individual. But the real benefit of this, and again, the sun and moon are very close to those exalted placements. So there's still that principle that they're not far away from their exaltation point. So they both have that high, Chestabala, because they both have high Chestabala, the sun's Chestabala, is it near exalted or is it when it's bright? I'm forgetting here. I'm having the brain grind to a... Oh, no, they're both near I think the sun's is when it's near the solstice and the moon when it's exalted. Or is it near... I'm forgetting. Say the screws loose here. But either way, they're still both near those exaltation points. So they're both, on a personal level and on a more spiritual cosmic level, both the sun and the moon are still very powerful on those days because they're not far from the places where they're exalted. So rather than some investment or some kind of worldly thing, again, I already said that the worldly thing that I think could be quite good is like something like communication or those sorts of things, because the moon being in Gemini, that kind of, but even that, it's very generic. I don't advise anybody do anything on these updates. Okay. So, but that, but the principle is still there, and the reason it's auspicious. And by the way, it's also Akshaya Tritiya, because Tritiya, the moon is far enough away from the sun. As you see, it's the third lunar day, because when it's closer, then the moon is so dark. The moon is still dark. So here on Akshaya Tritiya, it's the third lunar day after the new moon, because again, it's on the 14th, and as you see, this new moon is on the 11th. So it's 3 days after the new moon. Literally, the indication is 3 days after the new moon in Aries. That's what Akshaya Tritiya is. 3 days after the new moon in Aries. Because the new moon in Aries is happening so late here, the last lunation happened at the end of Pisces. And again, because the lunar day is happening so late, 3 days after, the sun is moved into Taurus and the moon is moved into Gemini. So again, the sky doesn't always cooperate with our holidays. When you're measuring things by the sky and the sun and moon coming together, which is how they do it in India, everything is soli-lunar connection. Again, this tells you about how sophisticated they were with their calendar and with their zodiac, because it's not just a calendar day. It's like, well, why don't they just make it, April 15th or whatever the heck it might be? Why not? Well, because April 15th, we know where the sun is, but we don't know where the moon is. And the sun is just measuring the earth going around the sun. If you want to bring in the cosmic implications, you have to connect the sun with a certain section of sky, of course, sidereal sky. The sun is going to be in a certain section of the sky, but then the moon has to line up with a particular relationship to the sun. Now we have a soli-lunar calendar. So that's what we're talking about here, is the soli-lunar calendar, not just a Gregorian calendar date, which only has to do with the earth going around the sun. So, but sometimes it's inconvenient, because then we'll get that new moon in Aries at 27 degrees. Then by the time we get to Tritiya, which is 3 days later, they've moved. So it's a good opportunity to learn about these things too. And if it's a little bit complicated for you, then that's okay. It's good to learn new things. So I hope that was helpful, Solana. Long answer, but sometimes I am like that. As they say in French, très bavarde, which means, it actually means talking, talks a lot. Talks a lot about some things, other things you can't get 2 words out of me. But so this is really all I wanted to talk about. I didn't want this to go on really, really long time. This is just an update about this new moon in Aries and the prevailing energy here, because it's a tricky one. The planets are really going to it's really going to be a big Taurus feel and shift right now. As I said in my May 2021 forecast, that shift from fire to earth is really complete now, at least in the next few days. By the time we get to Akshaya Tritiya, by the time we get to the 14th, you see all these planets are now in Taurus, and we're in that eclipse cycle. So that means that by the time the moon comes around here, the next time we're going to have the lunar eclipse here. That's on the 26th, I think. And then by the time the moon comes back around here again, we're going to have a solar eclipse in Taurus. And so this is, where we're at right now. And there's a lot of that Taurus energy, really great. And if you're a spiritual person like most of us are, and you're really involved in things where you're connected to your values and the people around you and the things you're doing, and it includes things like the things you're studying and the things in your life. Now is a time of great appreciation, enormous appreciation and growth and valuing of those things. Again, just Taurus is really where we get the most out of something, where, it's like the cow who chews his food. A cow will just sit there and chew on that grass. He's no hurry to swallow it. He'll swallow it once, He'll regurgitate it back up and chew on it some more. He's in no hurry. He's just appreciating and enjoying and present in the moment. You look at animals, animals are always present. They're present, right? And that animal, that cow is present with the enjoyment of that day and that food and the cows around him. So again, this is a great metaphor to, you'll be noticing the things in your life that bring great contentment and that bring great joy and depth, that where you can really, again, like sink your teeth into it and really digest it. And where you love those things that you love to go back and like listen to again or watch again or ponder again. This is a great part of having these eclipses in Taurus, because it's that energy where instead of running to the next thing, where we really can land in something where we feel happy and peaceful and contented. Again, the negative part is when we start to lose ourselves with other people, our family, all those things where we're stuck, where we can be stuck in an idea that my happiness and contentment comes from a certain situation or these people. Then we can, again, sort of top out a little bit, because Rahu's creating restlessness. And he's saying, but that's not all there is. There's more. And again, if we don't know ourselves, or we don't have those higher values, these things I'm talking about, like these great teachings and this other stuff, then we're going to look at what's around us. Okay, it's like, well, I thought you're the thing that's around me. You're the thing I'm surrounding myself with. It must be you not making me happy. And we start to get, sort of naggy and stuck in our attachment to the form of joy and bliss, rather than feeling ourselves and knowing that we're the source of it and that we need to generate it. And that anyone who is out there trying to go through this with us and make us happy and accommodate us and be kind to us and be patient with our weirdness and all the stuff that the wonderful people in our life are who actually want to get involved with us, to really appreciate them and to value them and not just take them for granted. Again, this is one of the big problems that Taurus can have, is that kind of taking for granted that something's always going to be there, right? So don't do that. And find that food that's worth chewing and digesting over and over again. I've been having a lot of calls with my students, recently. It's how I've been living it, is really sinking into a greater appreciation for all of those students that have studied with me, that are studying with me in my current certification courses, setting up calls where I'm talking to all of them personally and getting back to a more personal interaction with all of my students, which I've kind of lost a little bit of that because of not just doing other things, but because my school runs really well. I have great teachers and it's a great system. And as such, I've gotten a little bit disconnected for especially some of the new students. So actually this week and into next week, I'm doing a lot of personal calls where it's just them and me speaking. So I get to know them better, and it's been great. And so I'm just putting it together now. I don't live looking at, now that these planets are in Taurus, it'd be a good time to do that. No, it just actually spontaneously arose last week when I had some disconnect go on. So I was like, okay, I should do this. And I feel great about it. I was like, oh yeah, that's the thing to do. And then, the astrology is showing, all these planets in Taurus, Mercury, Venus there with Rahu. Yeah, okay. So sharing that appreciation for those that are on this journey with you is a big part of it, particularly when it revolves around these elevated ideas, and you can elevate your own, your own appreciation for them and all of that. So, all right, folks, I appreciate everyone's participation here. And, go ahead and share this with others. Whoops. What's this? Go ahead and share it with others and whatnot. And you have a good day.